Back to our channel. Now we are going to start humerus anatomy. So humerus, it's actually a arm bone. So it's present in our arm. So till now we have discussed the clavicle, scapula. Now we are discussing about arm bone, that is humerus. So if you can see, the humerus is the longest bone among all bones of upper limb. So you can see it's the longest bone, and it's having an upper and lower and borders, surfaces. So about everything we'll discuss. So we'll start with the upper end. So coming to the upper end, we'll zoom it out. First we need to understand what is the anterior and posterior surface. So if you see, this is the anterior surface of right humerus and this is the posterior surface of right humerus. So we will see the upper end of anterior surface first. So coming to the upper end, it has a head. If you see the head, which is located medially. Why it is located medially? Because it need to articulate with the glenoid cavity of the scapula. Glenoid cavity is the lateral side of the scapula, so it need to attach with it, right? So this is head, which is placed medially, articulates with the glenoid cavity, and it forms a shoulder joint. Next, head is, like you can see, the head is forming 1/3 of the spear. It's larger than the glenoid cavity. The glenoid cavity will be shorter. For example, this size, this much will be glenoid cavity, but the head will be larger. It's 1/3 of a spear. And the line which is separating the head from the rest of the upper end. If you see, this is the head and this is the rest of the upper end. This line, you can see here, this dotted line. This is nothing but the anatomical neck. So the anatomical neck is nothing but the line which is separating the head from the rest of the body of the humerus. So next, coming to the lesser tubercle. So what is lesser tubercle? If you see here, this one is a greater tubercle and this one will be the lesser tubercle. Subscapularis lesser tubercle. So if you see one, actually this one, this is the lesser tubercle. And on posterior side you can see the greater tubercle. This is the greater tubercle, this is the lesser tubercle. So the lesser tubercle is an elevation on the anterior aspect of upper end. So you can see this is the anterior aspect. On the upper end you can see the lesser tubercle. Next, coming to greater tubercle. Now greater tubercle is an elevation which forms lateral part of upper end. So you can see this is lateral part. So one thing we will confirm, how to find in humerus which is lateral medial. Very simple, either in anterior or posterior you can easily find it out by means of head. Wherever there is head, that side will be medial part. The opposite side will be, of course, lateral part. So here in this diagram, anterior surface, the head is here, so this will be the medial part, this will be the lateral part. And here on the posterior surface, head is here, so this will be the medial part, this will be the lateral part. So now I said, on the lateral part of the head, posterior side, you will have the greater tubercle. So that is correct. So this is about greater tubercle. Next, you can see the greater tubercle is an elevation. It's like an elevation. Even the lesser tubercle is an elevation. If you see the real bone, you can appreciate it very clearly. They are like both two elevations. So the posterior aspect, if you see, the posterior aspect is marked by 3 impressions. That is the upper, middle and lower. So the posterior side, you will have the 3 impressions: the upper, middle and the lower. You can appreciate them very easily on the posterior side especially. So next, coming to the intertubercular sulcus. So what is this intertubercular sulcus? We will find out here. You can see in the diagram, everything is labeled already. So this one, this is the intertubercular sulcus. So the intertubercular sulcus is also called as bicipital groove. It is called as bicipital groove, which separates the lesser tubercle medially. If you see, this is medial side, so the lesser tubercle will be medially. It separates the lesser tubercle medially from the anterior part of greater tubercle. From the anterior part of greater tubercle. This is the greater tubercle anterior part. Mostly it is on the posterior part, right? But on anterior part also it has some part. So the intertubercular sulcus is dividing it's between like the anterior part of lesser tubercle and also the anterior part of greater tubercle. Actually this lesser tubercle is medial and the greater tubercle's anterior part is lateral to the intertubercular sulcus. So right, now we'll see the sulcus Yeah, if we'll talk about the sulcus has the medial and lateral lips that represents the downward prolongation of lesser and greater tubercle. So the sulcus is having, for example, it's not clear in this diagram, but in the real bone you will appreciate the sulcus will be like this. So it is having medial end which is towards head side and lateral end, right? Lateral lips, so that represents the downward prolongation. They're like downward prolongation of lesser and greater tubercle. And the narrow line which is separating the upper end of the humerus from the shaft is called surgical neck. So here will be the surgical neck. So very important points these are. We need to remember what is anatomical head and what is surgical head. Anatomical head is just separating the head from the rest of the humerus, but the surgical neck is here, somewhere over here, that is separating not only head, also greater and lesser tubercle from the whole of the surface or the part of the humerus. That is the surgical neck. So we have understood the upper end. So upper end mainly have head, greater tubercle, this is greater tubercle, this is lesser tubercle. So and intertubercular sulcus, we have seen the anatomical neck, surgical neck. So now later we will move on to the shaft. So coming to the shaft, if you see it's like rounded in upper half and triangular in lower half. If you see here like rounded, somewhat rounded shape, but here you can see like somewhat triangular in lower half. Like here this one, especially this one, it's like triangle. This is rounded. This all actually, if you palpate the real bones, it will be more appropriate to understand. Even now by means of diagram I'll try to understand. So this lower part is triangular, upper part is rounded. Next, coming to the borders, the upper 1/3 of anterior border forms the lateral lip of intertubercular sulcus. The upper 1/3 of anterior border forms a lateral lip of intertubercular sulcus. That is lateral to the intertubercular sulcus means this side, right? This is medial, this is lateral, and the middle part forms anterior margin of deltoid tuberosity. Yeah, if you see in the middle you'll have the deltoid tuberosity. It's not shown here, so this one you can see there the deltoid muscle is attached. This one is the deltoid tuberosity. Here you can see this V-shaped, the V-shaped projection in the middle part is called deltoid tuberosity. And the lower half of anterior border is smooth and rounded. So lower half is smooth and rounded. Next, coming to the lateral border. So you can see this is the lateral border, this side, because it's opposite to the head side, right? So lateral border is prominent, especially in the lower end, and forms a lateral supracondylar ridge. So this one is called lateral supracondylar ridge. And in upper part, it's rarely traceable up to posterior surface of greater tubercle. Like on posterior surface it will be rarely traced. The middle part is interrupted by radial spiral groove. If you see on the lateral border, it's interrupted by radial spiral groove. On posterior side you can appreciate is more. You can see this is the lateral head of triceps of Becken, this is the radial groove. So radial groove is passing mainly towards backward, but it's like coming from the lateral side to the medial side on posterior side. So you can see this head, so it's medial side in posterior side, but on anterior side if you see the radial groove will be somewhat towards the lateral side. So you can see here these are different muscles attachment. This is the lateral border, this is the medial border. You can write it, this is medial, this is lateral. Now we'll discuss about different surfaces. So you have the anterior lateral surface, anterior medial surface, and also posterior surface. So we'll discuss one by one. First one is anterior lateral. In the name itself you can see anterior but towards somewhat lateral, means towards this side. You can draw a line here, this side, mainly towards this side. So anterior lateral surface is mainly between the anterior and lateral border. The upper half is covered by surface of deltoid. So the upper half, mainly this side, on lateral side it's covered by deltoid. So where is the deltoid muscle? You can see on the posterior side here, and on lateral side you can see deltoid. So this lateral, anterior lateral side, upper half is mainly covered by the deltoid muscle, right? And the little above the middle marking V-shaped deltoid tuberosity, behind it is a radial groove which runs downwards, forwards across the surface. Yes, so actually the just in the deltoid groove behind it only you'll have the radial groove. As I said, it is laterally placed radial groove, but when it goes posterior it goes towards the medial side, right? Next, coming to the anterior medial surface, means anterior medial towards this side, right? Anterior medial surface is between anterior and medial border. Its upper 1/3 is narrow, forms the floor of intertubercular sulcus. Yes, it forms the floor of intertubercular sulcus, and even the nutrient foramen on the surface near its middle. In the middle here, you will find somewhere the nutrient foramen, right? Here you will find the nutrient foramen in the anterior medial surface of middle part. And near medial border mainly you will find this nutrient foramen. Next, coming to the posterior surface, you can see the posterior surface which is lying between the medial and lateral. This is medial now. So here coming to posterior, this is medial, this is lateral now, right? So on the posterior surface is between the medial and lateral borders. Its upper part having oblique ridge. You can see here the upper part is having an oblique ridge, and the middle part is 1/3 crossed by radial groove, and that's it. Now we will see about, now we will specially talk about the lower end, because you can see lower end have many different parts, we need to understand it. So lower end forms a condyle and it is expanded from side to side. If you see, these are called as condyles and they are expanded from side to side and has articular and non-articular. Some are articular, some are non-articular. Let us find out what structures are articular and what are non-articular. So first we'll see the articular structures, coming to the capitulum. So if you see here, this is called as capitulum. This capitulum, if you see, it's on two sides, especially it's on lateral side right? So it's a rounded projection and it is an articular head for radius. So of course radius is on lateral side in a forearm, so it's articulating with the radius laterally. And trochlea, if you see, it's a pulley shaped, it articulates with the trochlear notch of ulna. As ulna is medial, so it's articulating with trochlear notch of ulna, and the medial edge of trochlea projects down more than lateral edge. So this trochlea is in turn having the medial edge and lateral edge, but the medial edge will project more downward and results in forming the carrying angle. So actually what is carrying angle? For example, if you see my hand, this one, if I put my hand like this in this position, this is called as carrying angle. So for the carrying angle, mainly this trochlear's medial edge is more downward and it's helping for it. So very simple, only the capitulum and the trochlea are the articular surfaces of the lower end of the humerus. Now we'll see what are non-articular. You have the medial epicondyle. So this side, if you see, this is the medial epicondyle, this is lateral epicondyle. So the medial epicondyle is a prominent bony projection on medial side of lower end. It's subcutaneous, easily felt on medial side of elbow. So the lateral epicondyle is smaller than medial epicondyle. Its anterior lateral part has muscular impressions, and the sharp lateral margin above lower end is called supracondylar ridge. This one, supracondylar ridge. The medial supracondylar ridge is similar on medial side, and the coronoid fossa is a depression just above the anterior aspect of trochlea. So if you see this fossa, this is called as coronoid fossa. It's just anterior to this articular surface on the anterior part of lower end of humerus, right? So this is a depression above anterior aspect of trochlea and accommodate the coronoid process of ulna when elbow is flexed. When elbow is flexed means, for example, like this, when elbow is flexed in this position, if you see in bones, it will be very clear that the coronoid fossa is accommodating the coronoid process of the ulna when especially in flexed position of elbow. Next, coming to the radial fossa. So where is the radial fossa? That is towards the side of coronoid fossa. So radial fossa is towards lateral side, coronoid fossa is towards the medial side, right? So the radial fossa is a depression above anterior aspect of capitulum, accommodate the head of radius when elbow flexed. So coronoid fossa will accommodate the head of ulna. It will coronoid process of ulna. It will accommodate the radial process of mainly radius. So olecranon fossa, on the posterior side you will find the olecranon fossa. This is the posterior aspect of trochlea. It accommodates the olecranon process of ulna when elbow is extended. Very important, olecranon is only for ulna. Ulna means medial side, right? So it's only for ulna. that too when elbow is extended here. So till now we are seeing here the coronoid fossa, radial fossa. This is when elbow is flexed, but it is a extension. Extension means like this, right? So till now I said here this all for flexion. Flexion means if you bring your hand like this. Extension means like this, extending the hand. So in extension process, the olecranon fossa is helpful for ulna. Coronoid process, coronoid fossa for ulna, radial fossa for radius. In the case of flexion, this is both for flexion, this is for extension. So now we have come to the important part, that is what muscles are attached, what are the particular features of humerus. So coming to the multipennate subscapularis. Subscapularis is present on coastal surface of scapula. So it is getting mainly inserted to the lesser tubercle. So here in the lesser tubercle there is insertion of multipennate subscapularis, which is from the coastal surface of scapula. Next you have the supraspinatus. Supraspinatus, it's coming from the dorsal surface of scapula. It is inserting to the uppermost impression on greater tubercle. So here will be the supraspinatus. Next coming to infraspinatus, it is also coming from posterior surface of scapula. It will insert into the middle impression of greater tubercle. So to the middle impression of greater tubercle, you can see here the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, they are attaching to the mainly the greater tubercle, right? And next you have the teres minor. Teres minor, it is also coming from the posterior surface of scapula, right, especially on its medial border. As you see here, already I discussed teres minor, right? It's on the lateral border of posterior surface of scapula, right? It is coming and attaching to the impression, lower impression on greater tubercle. So what you observe, all these are what posterior parts of supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor. These are all the muscles of posterior side of scapula. So the posterior side of scapula muscles are getting and attached to the greater tubercle, right? Whereas subscapularis is an anterior muscle and it is attached to the lesser tubercle. So you see here the subscapularis is attaching to the lesser tubercle. So to the lesser tubercle, the anterior scapular muscle is attached. The posterior scapular muscles are attached to the greater tubercle. And next coming to the pectoralis major. Pectoralis major is origin from the medial anterior part of clavicle, right? So it is inserting into the lateral lip of intertubercular sulcus. This is intertubercular sulcus, so lateral limits towards this side. So you can see here the pectoralis major, it's mentioned here. Pectoralis major is attached to the lateral part of intertubercular sulcus. So its insertion is mainly bilaminar. Next coming to latissimus dorsi, it is also attached to the posterior surface of scapula. It is inserting to the floor of intertubercular sulcus. So if you see latissimus dorsi in the floor of intertubercular sulcus. Next teres major. Teres major is of course coming from posterior side of scapula. It is inserted to the medial lip of intertubercular sulcus. So it's like you can remember the lady between two majors, that is a pectoralis major, teres major, in between the lady that is a latissimus dorsi. So it's a mnemonic to remember them. So next you have the content of intertubercular sulcus. Mainly you have the tendon of long head of biceps brachii. You also have the synovial sheet, ascending branch of anterior circumflex artery. Next coming to deltoid. Deltoid is arising from the lateral border anterior side of clavicle, right, and it is inserting to the deltoid tuberosity, that is in the middle part and anterior lateral surface of a anterior part of humerus, right? So here the deltoid tuberosity for the attachment of deltoid. So if you see here in humerus, till now we are discussing all the insertions. Mainly there are many insertions in the case of humerus, right, till now. So now we will see coracobrachialis, right? Coracobrachialis is coming from coracoid process, right, of the scapula. It will insert into the rough area on middle of medial border. So in the middle of medial border you will have the coracobrachialis insertion. Next coming to brachialis. Brachialis is the one it's arising from the humerus. So it's a origin. So brachialis origin is mainly coming from, lower half of anterior medial and anterior lateral surface of shaft. So complete anterior surface, either lateral, medial, both sides the brachialis is arising, right, and extend onto posterior aspect. Even on posterior aspect it is extending. If you see here the brachialis small part, this one is also extending to the posterior aspect. Next coming to brachioradialis, it's also getting origin here. So this one you can see this is the brachioradialis, and here you can see the brachioradialis is arising from upper two-third of lateral supracondylar ridge. So lateral supracondylar ridge arises and also goes towards the posterior side. Next coming to extensor carpi radialis longus. So extensor carpi radialis longus is arising from lower one-third of lateral supracondylar ridge. Next, pronator teres. It's a humeral head, right? On the humeral head you have the pronator teres arise from lower one-third of medial supracondylar ridge. So here you have the pronator teres, lower one-third of medial supracondylar ridge, and superficial flexor muscle of forearm. Superficial flexor muscle of forearm arise by common origin from anterior aspect of medial epicondyle. So common flexor origin from here, superficial flexor muscle of forearm. From here, superficial extensor of forearm coming from common origin lateral epicondyle called common extensor origin. So you can see the common extensor origin, common flexor origin. From this the forearm muscles are arising. In the case of flexor they are arising from medial side. In the case of extensor they are arising from the lateral side, because extensor on the back side, so they can also go on to the posterior side. You can see extensor, whereas the flexor is only on the anterior side, so they are coming mainly from the medial side, that is towards the ulnar side. So the only muscle on the posterior side you have the anconeus. If you see, this is the anconeus, which is side to olecranon process. So from the posterior surface of lateral epicondyle the anconeus comes. Next, coming to the lateral head of triceps brachii, you can see the lateral head of triceps brachii. It's from the oblique region, upper part of posterior surface above the radial groove, and the medial head arises from posterior surface below the radial groove. So the medial head of triceps brachii and the lateral head are coming. On the posterior side above the radial groove, you'll get the lateral head of triceps brachii. On the posterior side below the radial groove, you'll get the medial head of triceps brachii. So next, coming to the capsule of shoulder joint attached to the anatomical neck. You can see this dotted line. There the capsule of shoulder joint will attach. Whereas capsule of elbow joint, here the elbow joint will attach to the lower end alongside reach upper limits of radial and coronoid fossa. So radial and coronoid fossa, here this dotted line, capsular ligament of elbow you can see here, and posteriorly to the olecranon fossa. So you can see in olecranon fossa, here the capsular ligament of elbow is attached. Next, the medial line of attachment pass between the medial epicondyle and trochlea. So if you see this medial epicondyle and this one medial epicondyle and trochlea, in between them it will pass. You can see this line. So this is a capsular ligament of elbow. On lateral side it will pass between lateral epicondyle and capitulum, this one. So next, three nerves. If you see this diagram, you can easily understand the three nerves are directly related to the humerus and they are liable to the injury. So axillary at the surgical neck. So this is surgical neck. It's related to the axillary nerve, and you have the radial nerve at radial groove. So radial groove, radial nerve, and another one is ulnar nerve, which is behind medial epicondyle. So this medial epicondyle, behind it you have the ulnar nerve. So these are the three nerves which are in direct relation to our humerus. So they are liable to injury if there is any damage to humerus. So finally we are coming to ossification. So finally we have come to ossification. So same like scapula, here even the humerus have one primary center and 7 secondary centers. So one primary center is present in middle of diaphysis and it appears in 8 weeks. Whereas the 7 secondary centers are spreaded into the upper end and lower end. In the upper end there are 3 secondary centers. One is present in the head and it's beginning in the first year. And the one is in the lesser tubercle, it start developing 5th year. One is in the greater tubercle, it's in the 2nd year. So all these three, head, lesser tubercle, greater tubercle, this upper and all parts have three secondary centers, all fuse in the 6th year, and they form the epiphysis, and the 20th year they fuse with the shaft. So next, coming to nutrient foramen, it's directed away from the growing end always. This is important point to remember. In the lower end it have 4 secondary centers. So total 4 plus 3, 7 secondary centers. So remember, upper end have 3 secondary centers, one for one part. In upper end we have mainly head, greater tubercle, lesser tubercle. Whereas lower end have 4 secondary centers, that is one for capitulum and lateral trochlea in the first year, and one for the medial end of trochlea. In the 9th year they appear all fused by 14th year. Next you have the one lateral epicondyle for 12th year. So lateral epicondyle, medial epicondyle, and capitulum. So all this fuse in the 14th year and they form one epiphysis. Later they may join with shaft at the age of 16 years. So middle epicondyle have 4 to 6 years. They appear in the 4 to 6 years. Their centers appear and form separate epiphysis and fuse with shaft during 20th year. So finally you can see 20th year there is fusion of shaft with this lower end. With the upper end it fuses also at the 20th year. So 20th year is where the shaft joins both the upper and lower end. So by this we have completed our humerus. Next we'll start with radius.